We are live. Episode 63. This is the Lyrical Ones podcast.
Ones,
Whether
ones,
you're
ones.
watching live or watching the, I guess, recorded version of this, whether you're
Or
listening,
listening, tell them.
yeah, listening live or listening to the recorded version of this, um, I am Cineo, joined with Alfluent. And Alfluent, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's a wild world. And, we still navigating this world, as humans. I was thinking about just like the phrase that, like, the closest we'll come to the creator, closest we'll come to God is the person across from you. And just how different we all are and how similar we all are. And, like, how could we try or think that we could understand someone divine, something divine, um, which is far from us when we, can't even accept and try to understand each other as we, go through life and experience a lot of the same things. And, we in this, we in this space where like there's a lot going on, a lot of violence, um, a lot of like a lot of violence to ourselves, and that's trippy. It's a lot of that going on. People, you know, climbing up high to set themselves up for a big fall. And, you know, it's like if you ain't got the balance, maybe you shouldn't be up there.
I
You know,
like I like the I like where you're going with this one. This is gonna woo. I know where we're going now.
right? It's like I come into this world, right, with a little bit of responsibility, right? And I see tall buildings, right? I see bookshelves, I see I see beds, I see ladders, right? I see building blocks, I see playground structures, right? And it's a lot of things you learn through trial and error for sure, right? But some things you got to prepare for, just even a little bit, got to have some experience, you know, otherwise you hurt yourself. And I think I through athletics and exercise, a lot of through a lot of different sports that I've participated in, I've I put my body through the ringer in a sense. And now I'm in a space where I just don't want to be in pain. And so I'm in a space of gratitude right now where I see the world, self-sabotaging, and I'm grateful to be here on Lyrical Ones on this live Wednesday that we own live. We broadcasting, and I'm happy to be here with you, my co-host Cineo, and I appreciate you asking me how I'm doing because the more I'm in a space of gratitude, the more gratitude I share, the more it's just praises really for everything that's coming my way and everything that's uh, gone my way so far. How you feeling?
I'm feeling everything you were saying, every word that you gave. I appreciate it. Because right now I'm looking at how you're right. It's almost as though people trying to run up the staircase to heaven, and it's not their time. It's like trying to reach a level of glory and praise, right? To earn the merits and justification, the validation of those around you, the approval, to seek some shine, to seek the light. And it's difficult because how it makes me feel right now is there's a level of self-awareness that you have to really understand, right? Going to what you were saying around knowing and understanding yourself in order to understand others, right? There is this synchronicitous relationship, right? Me being more agnostic, right? Divinity to me is very broad in a lot of ways, right? But there's this cycle that I can see that exists, whether it's the divine geometry of the world, right? Or whether you're looking at it on a microscopic level, on a universal level, on an astronomical, right? There's so many circles involved. And there's this reciprocation in relationships that exists within you, it exists outside of you. If you're fortunate enough to have had a relationship where you could start to explore what love is, right? Sometimes we do things to impress those in front of us, right? You going into saying the closest pathway, the closest way to reach God is the person right in front of you, right? But also it's reflected on self, right? It's also the door is unlocked within you, right? So there's this two-way ability, right, where everything's happening at once, right? The past is in the present because it got you here, right? Just as much as the future is the next moment in front of you, right? It's where everything meets at this point in time. The present is ever present, but so is the past and so is the future because of being in this moment. It's where the two meet. The same goes for the relationships. The same goes for how you feel about yourself. The same goes for the self-awareness, right? Because it's key. It's essential. It's hard to sometimes acknowledge it. It's sometimes hard to dive deep into it, but the self awareness goes a long way. And I feel like you hit it on the head. Everybody is willing to risk so much for that moment that they get over the hump instead of realizing some humps ain't for them to go over. Some things
Man,
ain't for them to go through, right?
man,
Not all challenges are necessary, right?
whoa, man,
We oftentimes place challenges before us rather than accepting the challenges we already have, right? Some of us try to avoid it. And it's easy. It can be easy. It's easy when you got something else you see over yonder, right? The greener grass. And for me right now, the feeling is I have to embrace and accept me, and I have to really appreciate and accept what it is that I have with those around me. And if I don't, and this is real, right? Because it's a boundary I have to set every day. Sometimes you got to make space for those challenges. Sometimes you got to make space between you and those other people to really experience what you're going through, to really accept what you're going through, and to overcome it. So you're not going and trying to seek out another challenge, or someone's bringing a challenge to you that's not for you to have. Because oftentimes, people will pump you up and get you to thinking this is for you, and then you realize as you come back down to earth and you looking up because the way down was harsh, it was fast, it was swift. You knew it was unsteady going up. You knew it wasn't sure. You knew this wasn't for you, but you did it anyway. And now, as you look back up to where you came from or where you was trying to go, you realize I got some things I need to handle down here. And so, yeah, I'm feeling like it's a time for me to be in the moment, be self aware, and accept and embrace me as much as it is me setting and defining like the space I need and appreciating the people that reciprocate that, right? Because that goes back to the reciprocity, right? Of like, do you reciprocate what it is that I give you, and I reciprocating, right? So, yeah, that's how I'm feeling.
nice. Like when when I turned 30, I realized how much I was sabotaging myself. And I read something today where someone posted, "Today I learned I was dumb or I was stupid. Today I learned I was stupid." After setting themselves up for a big fall. And for me, it was like an overnight thing. It's like, oh, dang, I really been in my 20s. I was really doing this to myself and setting myself up for, you know, kind of, kind of, kind of big falls to me at the time. And I was fortunate enough to to be injured, right, emotionally and not physically. At the same time, right, I was unfortunate to where I was not injured physically, but injured emotionally, right? So I've been through some things, right, where I fell and hurt my spirit, hurt my ego, hurt my heart, and right had to kind of like get put back together, right? Had to go through, you know, some protocols, concussion protocols when it comes to the heart. Had to go through, right, some surgery and repair and some healing when it comes to my spirit. And all because was setting myself up, climbing up to where I shouldn't have been, and just taking these spills. And it was really like waking up the next day on 30, and it's like, oh man, I setting myself up. And not only that, but I could avoid a lot of what I've been through before and not repeat those things just by accepting where I was messing up, right? Just accepting that, oh, shouldn't have climbed up there, shouldn't have climbed up there, shouldn't have climbed up there. Won't be doing that again, won't be doing that again, won't be doing that again. Instead, I'm going to get this, proper incline and, you know, plateau at times and then climb at times, plateau at times, climb at times, but also recognizing that I was not going backwards because I had plateaued, because I could look back at what I've been through and say that, oh, I'm not starting from scratch, right? I'm starting from experience, but also acknowledging, oh, there are things that that I don't need, places I don't need to climb no more. Like I don't even need to set myself up that way. I'm gonna go set myself up that way. Like it's beyond me. Not because I'm not capable, because the risk reward is lopsided, right? The reward does not justify the risk. And like I think once you get there in life, at any point, then you start to take smarter risks. They don't become smaller risks. They become risks with proper rewards attached to them. And like even if you fail big, you were shooting for something worth it. And if you fall short, you come away with lessons that'll help you in the next venture, your next risk. And I'm seeing folks like not really acknowledge or even think about the reward. It's like, do you really? It's like the lottery. Like, if you got no mechanism or system set up to capitalize on a successful risk, why take it in the first place, right? And right, that's if take a risk on yourself in business, take a risk on yourself in romance, take a risk on yourself and financially, right, emotionally, right? It's like politically, socially, like there's so many different ways that we can take risks and bet on ourselves and come out better for it, even if the risk does not bring uh, the proper reward. It's not successful, right? And so I'm just in a space of now, like it's not quite bewilderment, but I got understand a little bit more about where people are because I remember taking similar risks with very little reward involved. And so I can understand that thinking because I've been, you know, mentally in that space. And now I'm in a space of where, I just I think I evaluate rewards differently.
You bring up a good point. And it's, I can find meaning or make meaning or, you know, amplify what it is being said in the moment. Example, I am a huge Alia fan. Huge. I remember the first time where it hit me that I was enamored by what this person could do and what they brought to the world. It was one in a million. And I remember listening to it and was like, this is amazing. This is, I want to do something that involves this. And it wasn't just Aaliyah, right? It was like Timbaland, Missy Elliott. It was this combination of production, songwriting, these visuals, the dancing choreography, the style. And here we are 20 years later. This is the day that she left us, right? She left this plane of existence. And for me, when you say being young and learning that you're doing things to yourself, right? I'm brought back to a younger, less informed version of myself and reflecting on 18 to 25, right? And the reason why I brought up Ali is because it became a way to identify what I wasn't dealing with or didn't have awareness of or couldn't acknowledge because I'm so young, right? Because I'm so enamored, wrapped up in what this person represents, I don't think critically about it, right?
Mm,
I just say I'm in love with this person. I don't know them, but I'm in love with what they do. I'm in love with what they bring and what they make me feel in this world. And that replicates itself in my relationships. That is replicated in so many different instances where I'm not really taking into account the relationship and the reciprocation, right? And how am I showing up? Because me being self-destructive,
mm,
having these tendencies that are tied into my upbringing, that are tied into my family or my relationships and how I learned from these relationships or needed to unlearn at a certain point. 18 to 25 became this 7-year period where I learned how much damage I'm doing to me and those around me, right? Reason number 6,332 why I wear the mask. So some people just ain't got to see my face again because I understand the damage I did. I understand the harm that I caused. And it's almost like, how dare I gloat with the face that they know when I don't have any way of knowing that they were able to process what happened, right?
right.
I don't have any means, right? Because I've created boundaries out of those situations for both of our own sake, our safety, our health, our sanity. And I don't have any way to know. And it's not that I don't care to know, it's
Right.
that I know I don't need to. It's that I know that I'm better off not having it and I got to maintain the boundary. And that's different for everybody. For some people, right, you might have a friendship or a relationship, a significant other, and you can have amicable, respectful, meaningful dialogue after some type of relationship that evolves and changes. And for some people, you can't for whatever reason. And for me, I'm the type of person, because of how I was brought up, where I maintain those boundaries. Whether I'm blood related to you, whether I'm related to you because of what we went through together, whatever the case may be, right? I acknowledge enough, one sliver of a big pie as to why I wear this mask. I don't even want to put that on you. You don't have to even see me in that regard, right? This is a mutilated version of what you know. It's different. It's not the same. And that was always a thing, right? It's like, I'm a compassionate person. I lead with empathy. And for me to acknowledge that I was stupid, that I was dumb, that I couldn't understand the harm I was causing or the harm I was going through or the harm I was putting myself through, it's a major thing because it ties back to that idea of let me challenge myself to climb what doesn't need to be climbed, right? Let me somehow ignore what needs to be done, right?
Right.
If you lack the balance, then you should work on the balance first. Don't go and try and challenge yourself now, right? If you know that your ankles are unsteady, right? Or if your inner ear isn't properly functioning, right? And the higher you go, the more vertigo you're going to have. Maybe you should think twice about what it is that you're doing, right? If you know that you're not doing this to challenge yourself, or you know that you're not surrounded by people who want to see you overcome the challenge, but just want to see you fail and fall, there's a
There it
lot that you need
is.
to take into consideration before you go and challenge yourself, right? And that's just life. That's life. Like that's just life. But we don't often think about that when we're in it, right? We're like, oh, we're hyped up, or we got people pushing us and trying to get us to do this thing, or we in our own head thinking, oh, how they gonna think of me? You got to let that go. I have to let that go. I have to work on letting it go every day. It re-engages. It finds a way to come in. It finds a way to show up, and I have to challenge and fight and push, right? If consistency is key, it's not that the consistency means I let off. The consistency means I got to keep going. I got to keep pushing. And there's going to be days I don't want to. There's going to be days I don't feel like it. And so I have to challenge myself before I go and deal with the challenges someone else places on me or wants me to see or wants me to do. And then I have to engage to say, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And that's the thing, like 18 to 25, I didn't have no understanding of that, right? We could get into the scientific meaning, right? Whereas your prefrontal cortex isn't really done developing until you're about 26, which means depending on the safeguards and the society, community, and the supports you have, you may not make it. And when I mean you may not make it, you may not have something waiting for you where you can even accept or process. There's still time for you to live, enjoy, and grow, right? You said for you, it was 30. One day you woke up, right? That's within that. You literally got 4 years to get accustomed and acclimated to you, right? And I feel the same way. I feel like I woke up one day and I'm 26 and I realized I need to work from here on out. And it wasn't until I was about 30 where I was like, okay, now I got a better handle and hang on what it is and how I want to do it. Right. Like I remember working a job where my coping mechanism was to drink because of how toxic and stressful the job was. And it became a communal thing where I'm making the excuse to say, oh, well, we're doing it together. When in
Right.
reality, we're just trying to process and cope with the pain of what our job is doing to us, not really enjoying and embracing each other as much as we are also not acknowledging and dealing with the pain that we're going through. Because what ends up happening after a period of time, we all decide to leave together. But for a period of time, it was like, oh, well, we're going to figure out how we're going to get through this. And it was like, we learned this wasn't for us, right? This challenge, right? We thought this was the challenge we needed. No, this was just preparation for other challenges elsewhere. This wasn't the real challenge. This was practice. And
That's
we
it.
learned what is the practice we needed to develop to deal with this that at least for me doesn't have me rushing to, oh, I need a drink. I need something. I need a nightcap. I need something that's going to decompress me because I'm feeling pressed, right? Stressed or sad or depressed or whatever the case may be. Let me go in and inoculate myself, right? Let me become just inoculated and just say, you know what? I'm gone because I can't process and deal with. And it was like I'm outside of that scope of being, as far as I see, the stupidest me, 18 to 25, right? But I'm still within the time period where I'm learning, like, oh wait, this ain't right, right? Maybe I'm not doing it every day. Maybe I'm binging on the weekends. Maybe I'm binging every 3 weeks, right? Maybe I'm coming up with new parameters to make me feel okay about what I'm doing until I realize this ain't it. This ain't me. This isn't who I am,
Right.
right? And for some people, it's like, oh, you tripping, bro? What you talking about, bro? I'm finna turn up right now. It's like, that's cool. You do that. And I love you and I appreciate you, but I'm not you. I got to maintain that space. I got to maintain that boundary. You want to go and climb, right? Maybe you got the balance. Maybe you don't. Maybe you can't see outside yourself enough or have the self awareness to know this challenge ain't for you, but you do you because I got to do me. And it's not out of disrespect. It's not because I'm better than anyone other than myself, right? I'm not better than anybody. I'm just trying to be better than I was yesterday on a constant, on a consistent basis. And that's not disrespectful to anyone. And if someone finds the disrespect in it, well, guess what? There may be another challenge for you because that's the reality of it, right? We're all just trying to figure out what we want to do or how we want to do it or go towards our true purpose or our meaning or what we feel is fulfilling. And it's like not everyone has that scope or that vision, and that's okay, right? I heard a conversation in relation to a anime called Naruto, and people were talking about this one character, and they were saying how much they did not like Sakura, and they're like, she is the worst. Now we could get into depth as to maybe the creator just didn't have the ability to write them out as a full-fledged, full thought out character, right? You could say everything you want, but in the reality of it, for me, what was brought to my attention in this conversation was there's people who they have very simplistic goals, wants, and needs in the world. They may find themselves in miraculous positions or around miraculous people, and that doesn't minimize or take away from who they are. It just means they have different wants and goals and needs, right? And that's the thing that people sometimes lose sight of. There's nothing wrong with either or. It's nothing wrong with being the overachiever, and there's nothing wrong with going with the flow. Oftentimes we try to place them against each other instead of seeing them all a part of the same spectrum. And as I was stupid, thinking, oh, everybody needs to be doing XYZ, or people telling me that they want to do XYZ, I had to come to realize we all want different things. And I have to accept that. And I have to be willing to communicate how that difference is either going to impact us as individuals or impacts us as a collective. Right? That's a difficult thing, right? When you gotta have that heart to heart with your boy and like, yeah, I know you say you want to do this, but this ain't really you.
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah.
you just trying to hate. Hold on, I'm not hating. I know you. I love you and I appreciate you. But these are the qualities you bring to the table. And what you're saying requires this other set of qualities. And if you don't believe me, well, then either you're going to have to see for yourself, or maybe this is where we part ways, right? Now, again, it's different for different people. Some people want to hold on. Me, I'm the type to let go. Why? History, life experience. That was the practice. That is the culture that I was grown up in. Is that whether you want to let go, you got to let go. I was surrounded by death. Death was a reoccurring thing. Letting go becomes a practice that I'm very comfortable with. That's
Mm.
not for everybody, right?
Right.
That's not for everyone to live through. Some people don't know what that means or how that impacts or shapes them, but for me, that's the truth, and I have to live in that. Right? It's not a sign of disrespect. I can have immense love for someone within a short window of time, right? That period that we had means so much to me. But after I leave that period of time, I won't come back, right? It's like living in a new country, right? You can't be everywhere at once. You're going to be immersed in a new culture, new language, new way of life. And that's how I treat time, right? Not everybody's going to travel with me through every phase and every junction, right? And I think that if anything, right, when it comes to the time we're in right now, where as bad as it could be, sometimes we create a challenge that it may not be worse, but it can make things worse. Some will be able to meet the challenge and deal with the challenge and overcome it, and some will fall and become damaged, become harmed. And I think that yeah, like you said, right? Like identifying what am I doing to myself, and from that making the change and the difference to say I'm not gonna do that no more. Right? Asking for help, reaching out, communicating, right? Maybe shifting or growing or changing the community you surround yourself with. All these things have to be taken into consideration because it's the limits only exist as much as you place them on yourself. Others will try, But in true core and true scope, the limits are literally which you place on yourself.
Right. Right. Because you can place limits on yourself just by the company that you keep, and not even know that you're right. Putting bracers, putting limits on yourself, putting shackles on yourself, and and in movement and body movement, we use this term called proprioception. Right. Understanding how your body moves in it's your body awareness in space, right? And when it comes to like self-awareness or knowledge of self, right, it's important that you understand how you fit into the environment that you're in, right? It's like I have to understand that how I fit into the environment I'm in, not just by how people treat me, but how I treat people, how I show up, what I mean to say, what I actually say, how it's received, and whether or not what I say lines up with my words. I mean, what I say lines up with my actions and my choices. At some point, right, I'm trying to become aware of all those things so that I can be intentional with those things. And as I improve my proprioception, right, my how my body moves in space, right, or spaces, places, spaces, social spaces, physical spaces, right? Whether I'm high, whether I'm low, right? As I understand how my body moves, how my mind moves in these spaces, I can become more intentional in how I navigate those spaces. And if I'm going to change my environment, I can do that by leaving, or I can do that by staying and changing who I am, right? Because if I stay who I am, and the people who are allowing me to stay who I am and allowing me to keep the limits on myself, right, are complicit in my self sabotage. And then when I start to change myself but stay in the same place, either I'm going to affect the people around me and change the limits that they allow me to live in by being in exchange with me, being in reciprocity energetically with me, or they start to move away and say, this ain't for me no more. And sometimes they communicate that through violence, right? Emotional, verbal, mental, physical violence. They're like, this is not what I want. So I'm going to have to check you because that's my mode of communication. I'm going to lash out, right? Some flee, right? Some see my change in myself as violence toward them, and they say your identity that you're assuming is violent toward me. Yeah, well, but this this embodiment that I'm choosing to accept within myself is healing me. So I can't really, in good conscience, change that trajectory. So right, somebody's gotta step away. And sometimes it's gotta be me, sometimes it's gotta be them. But when I know who I want to be in space, right, then I can say, okay, I have an idea of where I'm starting at each day and where I'm starting at when I step into a space. I have a good idea of my stats, right? I need to know my stats before I take on a challenge. I got to have some ideas like, oh, my game is not the mid range, right? I need to be on the block, right? Or I don't need to be shooting threes. right? I need to stay just inside the 3-point line. Or, right, I'm not going to create my own shot. I need to catch and shoot. I need to make one move, two moves, and then, go toward the basket. That's the game I need to be in. Or, right, I shouldn't be climbing up this ladder because I don't got the stats for it. Right? I shouldn't be, climbing up these blocks, right? Because I don't have the stats for it. I shouldn't be taking this chance because I see my stats and say, okay, well, the prerequisite is I need this technique. If I ain't got this technique, right, I can't perform this spell. If I can't perform this spell, right, I'm gonna have to go without collecting you know, these rewards, right? And that happens sometimes where you got to reroute and say, well, I got to hit this other challenge first so that I can level up. And I see folks not leveling up, and they choose not to, and ain't really gaining too many stats, too much experience points, taking these falls, these self-sabotaging falls. And I think because of the way I've experienced storytelling and interactive storytelling, I've been in a space where I've wanted to gather as much information before I move on to the next thing. It's like making sure you understand the chapter. And whenever I, am studying, right, say, oh man, I may need to review this chapter before I go to the next chapter because I want to make sure I got it. Right? Not because somebody's gonna test me but I want to understand it and make it my own. Because I always feel like when you own some information, when you own the knowledge, right, then you can freak it how you want to and make it yours, and and then filter it out of you to deliver it to somebody else, to deliver it to your community, your tribe, passersby, whatever. Right? It's like you get the tool, right? Then you can wear the tool, then you can use the tool, right? Then you can master the tool. But if you don't stop to get it, you just taking on the challenge without the best tool for the job, right? A lot of times in certain situations, right, it's still glutes. People just be like, I ain't gonna work on my glutes. I'm gonna do these quad dominant exercises. I'm gonna do this upper body work, even though my glutes got the potential to be the strongest muscle in my body, not pound for pound, right? Because that's the tongue, but the strongest muscle as far as force generation goes, right? It's my glutes. People like, nah, I'm just go do this other stuff, and it's gonna have me looking right, or at least I'm gonna feel like I'm doing something. And a lot of times you can practice badly and get good at just being bad. And you can just practice inefficiently and just get good at being inefficient, right? Just reiterating our bad habits. And as we, try to gather information and say, man, I keep losing on this level. I keep losing on this stage. I keep losing at this part in life. I keep taking these L's and not taking in the lessons. And sometimes the approach is not coming from within, right? It's like, am I equipping myself with what I need to overcome this? If I'm not equipped to get over this hump, why am I even going for it? Right? Is it like I could take the risk out of it just by becoming more equipped? And I think we, and if we get to that part in community, right? You say, oh man, if I just got the tools, right? That's a justification by funding the Pentagon, right? That's the fun, right? That's the fundamental idea with spending money on the defense is that we just need the tools, right? So we go spend this money, get all the tools, so we take the risk out of stuff. Turns out we be then giving tools to other people. And I think when you in the wrong community, when you got the wrong people around you, sometimes, you know, you share information and before you got the tool, right? You'll tell somebody else how to get it and don't get the tool yourself. So they could get over their hump and people be like, oh man, I thought you was coming with me. Yeah, I thought you was waiting for me. Disconnect.
When did you learn about the glutes being one of the most important muscle groups or muscles in the human body? When did you learn that?
Yeah, I don't know. A long time ago, somewhere in the last 3 decades. Let's see.
Can we rule out the 1 to 10 decade? That first decade, like you was like, "Ah, I'm about to work these out. About to be out here on this upper yard, upper playground. I'm gonna be on the upper
Not
yard just hitting squats,
um
high knees."
yeah, we could rule out 1 to 10 because I was doing calf raises at the time.
Okay, calf raises.
I was I was I was requested. It was a it was a I guess it was a challenge. I don't even know what to call it. It was yeah, it was a request. I was instructed not for a clear visible benefit, but I was instructed to do calf raises on the regular. And then see 10 to 20 somewhere around there, I think uh the glutes um yeah, second decade somewhere around there. Um my I had developed differently than other people. That's how I say that. I had developed differently than other people, and I was benefiting from the practice that and the exertion that my body was going through that gave me an advantage in athletics. Um, but I was like randomly always like pulling in information. So like it's like where did I learn right that idea? I don't know because just I feel like I'm just existing in time spaces where I'm just like holding on to stuff. But definitely
But then
somewhere
after that,
second and third decade.
second and third decade. So then after that, you was like, okay, I know this is something that I need to focus on. Like you weren't in resistance to it. You were like, let me learn about this more. Let me dive deeper. Or was it just the surface level? Okay, I know I got to do it in now. Just that's it.
Um, I don't think it was surface level. I think it was more like let's take this key and use it. It's like, oh, this is the gate that it opens. I'm gonna go get the key for it. Right? It's like,
Turbo Hero Ingenium.
yeah, yeah, it was like, yeah, let's go. But it was like, okay, there's the emerald gate. Let me get the emerald key.
Now the reason why I say that, right? Because even though it's so specific to say the glutes, it's also the metaphor of when you become aware of the thing. What do you do once you know, right? Do you deny it and then act out of denial and say, nope, I'm just gonna keep I'm gonna just keep working on my biceps. I'm
Well,
gonna just keep working on my chest.
I think it's the attachment though, right? It's the attachment to right the alternative,
I
right?
ain't worried
It's
about balancing out my body. I just want to look good in pictures.
nah, right. So like even if that's right, even if that's not the thing, right? It could be just the the attachment to the familiar, right? Versus right the new, right? Because the new may be like the hotness, but it's like I'm a I could get an A, but I'm gonna rock with this B because I know
Aesthetically
exactly
speaking.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, like sometimes it's aesthetic, sometimes it's performance, right?
You're
Some people
right.
it's
You're
not
right.
right. Some people it's not attached to right a performance, a level performance, right? Sometimes people is attached to B level performance. Like I know how to navigate this, so I'm not gonna take this other step because I don't know
Is that
how to.
out of
I don't know
is
myself.
is that out of awareness that they're at it? Because I almost feel as though when you say that, people will say, no, that's your A level performance. My A level performance, right? You identify it as B level, but for them, that's their A level, right? What you're doing is maybe off the path, right? And I think sometimes that happens, right? When we so many times,
Mhm.
and this
Yeah.
is this is this is this is what happens.
Yeah.
I will say this is what I need to do because of the results of what I've seen, the consequences of what's happened, right? And then the results that come from when I do the thing I need to do. I go and see what is the results I'm going to get, right? Is this going to be good for me, right? It could be eating. I'm going to eat this to see what are the results based off of the information I've gathered about what I'm eating. Now, some people will say, "Oh yeah, man, I could never do that. I could never be you." And I say, "I could never be me yesterday." Right? I could never be me yesterday. So you right, because you only see the residual image of who I was. I'm the one in the moment. As soon as I escape your view, I'm already in the past with you. But I'm ever present with me. So you're right. I could never be me either.
Right.
Right. But more importantly speaking, they identify the thing that I'm doing as being about me. Whereas I'm identifying the thing that I'm doing being about what am I trying to accomplish after? What is to come after when I do this thing, right? I don't even it almost becomes this thing where it's outside of me. It's abstract from out like this completely detached place where I'm like, I know what's gonna happen. And you could do it too. But again, you're not gonna do it because you're gonna see it as my thing. Whereas I see it as this is just a thing. It's a thing. It's not even mine because I got it from somewhere else, right? And then after I practice it, I own it, right? Like you were saying, like I like how you phrase that. Get the knowledge, know the knowledge, make the knowledge yours, and then freak it, right?
Mhm.
Once you know the tool or once you know the thing, then you have room to innovate, to broaden the scope, to expand upon it, to be more concise, precise, to figure out what is it that is the essence, what makes this thing the thing. And and that I think there is a piece where that becomes a part of you because it's like, you may come up with that one thing no one else has, and that is what people identify with you. But where
Mhm.
it comes from, right, is this almost long form process passed down through time of people saying, I'm going to take it, I'm going to own it, and I'm going to give it to the next person, right? To have true mastery and ownership over it. So that way I can improve upon it. Or if it doesn't need to be improved, I'm going to hold on to the essence and maintain it. So it's posterity through time. And it's layered. It's layered. I know this is like super like
No,
this
no,
may
that's
be
good.
a lot for people to think about, but it's so true in the multifacetedness of life, whether it's relationships, whether it's relationships with yourself or others, your family, your friends, the community, whether it's what you do every day, how you treat yourself, right? Um, how we see things, right? Like
Right.
I had a conversation with a friend, and they were like, "This is getting real." It was like, could I borrow this from you?" And it was a video game, and I was like,
Mm.
"No."
Oh, that is real.
And I was like, they were like, "Why?" I was like, "I don't let people borrow video games from me." And they was like, "Would you let me borrow money?" I was like, "Look, I don't look at money as letting you borrow money. I look at money as it grants me access to things. It grants me access to experiences, possessions, or opportunities. It grants me freedom. But I don't look at money as the thing that I let borrow because money comes and goes and I have no real attachment to it outside of does it afford me a trip somewhere in the world?" Right?
Right. It's like if you want to borrow access, here.
Yeah. Because to me, I don't even look at it as borrow. I look at it as I gave it to you
Right.
because I know how people get with money, right? But
Right.
if I let you,
If I'm letting it go out of my hands, and I'm letting it go all together.
exactly, because I'm not going to hold my ego to what you decide to do with it, right? I'm not going to hold my ego to what you decide to make happen or what doesn't happen or what doesn't come my way, right? I have friends who they owe me, but I don't look at it as they owe me because I gave it to them. Because
Right.
I've learned that
Every
over
time.
time, everyone's relationship with money is different. And so for me, you could say I'll let you borrow, but in my mind, I gave it to you because once it's out of my hands, I'm gonna go make it back. Not because you gave it to me, because I'm gonna go and get it. I'm gonna go get it. I'm gonna make it happen.
Because that's what I was doing before I gave it to you.
Exactly. Exactly. Right. I'm not gonna sit there and say, "Oh man, I wish I could. I can get it back. I wish they would have paid me." No, I paid myself. I was making sure I could afford it, so I don't put it on you because it was for me to do, right? It was
That's
for me to say, I'm going to give it to you. It wasn't for you to ask me to then me say, oh, I felt pressured. No, I love you. I appreciate you. You're my people. And regardless of your habits, your relationship, and your practice with money, I'm not going to hold that to you because I understand the fundamentals of this world and the money and the value of it changes and wavers all the time. But I do acknowledge that it grants me access. I do acknowledge it grants me opportunity. So it is a tool. It is a byproduct of the society and the agreement that I've agreed upon, right? Because I ain't move out to the forest and say, all right, I'm living off the land, y'all. No, I'm sitting here with a light on camera, with some headphones, and I've accepted that there's a requirement for me to have these things. I've accepted it. And
right.
I've accepted that people don't all have the same relationship to the thing. So when you say, can you borrow a video game? I'm going to say no, because that ain't about money. That video game may be something my mother gave me, right? That may be tied to a memory or something that is a book, a part of my journal and my life experience. Can I let you borrow my journal? I don't think I can. It's for me, right? Now I'm not saying I'm like this with everything because I've let a lot of things go, but certain things hold some level of value to me that exceeds anything money can ever say or buy or think of or even measure.
It's not even a journal. It's the pen.
Thank you. My favorite pen, the one that just writes
It's
effortlessly, the one that just flows, the one that just feels good, feels right. It is the pen. It's the pen, right?
it's the only pen. It's the pen that I use
They
on
stopped
a
making
regular
the pen.
uh, on a regular basis. You know, the pen is only created through. It only works with me. It won't work for you.
Got to go find your own pen, right? And I go back to the glutes, right? Because so many times
Your
people, I'll
glutes
be
getting
like,
strong don't get my glutes strong.
"Where's the love? Ain't no love in the heart of the city." But it's true, right? It's a thing where it's like, I'm constantly trying to learn, right? What is the thing I need to do? Let me do that, right? Let me, what does the self care look like, right? What is the time and the level of energy and exertion that I need to provide? Because I do see a balance, right? Between my mind, my soul, my body, right? My life, my time, my experiences. There's a reason why everything happens the way it does and things happen the way it do. And I'm not detached from that, right? I may say, okay, I'm separate from you, not because I'm better than, because I know better now, right? I know better than to allow myself or subject myself to a situation that could be toxic, right? Because back in the day, as you had said earlier, I know 8 a.m. they gonna guarantee me a toxic day, right? And that's the
Sharp,
thing is it's sharp, right? But I also been the one to do that too, right? I've also been the
sharp.
one to
Right.
provide that sharp, right? It's a two-way street. It's a unfortunate reciprocation. And at some point I had to tell myself, stop. This is it. This is where you end it. You gotta put a barrier there, right? There now has to be a canyon, right? Because if you have the ability to keep going across easily, you're gonna keep going across. So right now, what we're gonna do, we're gonna create a whole ocean right here, right? Time done changed, and this is where we at, right? And it's not that it happened overnight; it's been happening the whole time. That's the thing, right? Sometimes people think it's overnight. No, it wasn't overnight. It is everything that has happened up to this point. Where then now you realize this is what you created. Some people refuse and they drown because of it, or they fall because of it, or they never acknowledge or never accept that's what's going on. And so, yeah, like sometimes you got to do those things to make that space. But the glutes, right? The glutes, I think it's so important because so many people will not do the work for what's necessary to maintain and keep that balance, right? Because you're only talking about the central point of what a person should work on, right? To then be able to function, right, at a certain point. And I think that is so essential. It's so important because even as literal as you say it, it is a metaphor for life. So
we is the only way on lyrical ones
lyrical ones.
is gotta be metaphors for life. And it's interesting because I really actually like all the talk of toxicity. I just don't like the perspective that is such an inhuman or debased thing when really we all have to purify, right? We all have to do it, but you have to acknowledge it, right? The body's doing it all the time. It's purifying, right? Kidneys, liver, brain, right? Lymph nodes, right? It's happening all the time, but your body has to have, right, receptors and appraisers of the toxicity in your body, right? To say, oh, that's jacked up. Let's fix that. Oh, that's jacked up. Oh, let's fix that. Oh, we released too much serotonin. Let's flush that. Oh, we released too much cortisol. Let's flush that. And people is just like, I ain't gonna flush it. People will be like, it's like, oh man, I got this habit, this unhealthy habit, right? Because like it's unhealthy, right? Because of how it harms me or the people around me, right? And it's unhealthy, right? Because it is right diminishing some part of my function. And and folks would be like, oh, it's toxic, it's so inhuman, it's so like cruel or terrible. No, it's just like human. And we pick them up from places that we don't mean to pick them up from. Like sometimes you just like everybody don't scream the same. So just because my
Some
scream is
people don't scream.
some people don't scream, right? And however it sounds is human. And and it's still gotta be stuff that's flushed, right? It's gotta be like purified. And so like when people talk about oh you about to be surrounded by rose quartz and moon water, it's like people is trying to purify in any way that somebody will direct them. And they still not taking their own receptors, right? Their emotions, right? Which are the part of the compass, right? Of our being, right? Or our ing, right? Without the B, right? We just are sometimes. And we're not being, we're not doing, we just are. And sometimes folks don't take the compass and the beacons and say, oh, this is jacked up. Let me purify this. They can't even see that it could be purified. Sometimes they in a space like, oh man, I can't even see myself not being this. Right. And that's what the workout is, right? That's what working on the glutes are. Right. I seen somebody else getting it. Can I really get like that? Maybe. Maybe they're gonna look like something different. But they can get strong, right? Your morality, right? Your integrity can get strong, right? Your transparency can get strong, right? You can level up, right? If you work on it, but first you got to acknowledge, dang, I'm kind of weak right there. I'm only kind of like a level 2. I gotta, I can't, I might be able to skip levels, but I could also take on a challenge that's too much for me and get worked in the on a level 4 dungeon because I didn't want to take out the level 2 dungeon a few times to get up to level 3. It's like, oh man, I could have knocked out these level 1s and 2s and got up to level 3. Might have even got up to level 5 before I even came at the level 4 dungeon. Man, I love that feeling. It's nothing better than leveling up past past the required level. It's nothing better than that. Oh, let me find some gauntlets. Let me find a necklace or a bulletproof vest or some boots that'll get me right. Let me find just one piece of gear that's gonna have me make it a little bit easier for me. And folks don't be on that. Folks don't be like, oh, this is really hard for me in this relationship. This is really hard for me in this job. This is really hard for me in this conversation or this interview. And I just be like, how can I level up before it comes or before the next one comes? It's like, oh man, that mid level boss kind of worked me a little bit. I got him, but I didn't have no potions left. Let me come back. Let me come back the next time around ready in some ways, right? With more humility, right? With more self-esteem, right? With less fear or more love or more kindness, more gentleness, more understanding. Let me come through different this time. I'm not even gonna have on the same gear. I'm gonna have on this molten lava gear. You folks won't even know how I'm come through because I had to go to the volcano to get this. I had to go get a dragon. I didn't mess with no earth dragon. I had to go get that fire dragon first or something. But like folks just won't even be on it sometimes. And I'm thinking, I'm watching these folks climb these crates, and it's like, where's your level 2 at? And I like seeing the memes of people doing the level 1, but I never see nobody doing the level 1. I just see the 4 boxes, one on each side, and then 2 in the middle. And I'm like, oh, that looked like what's that? Connect 4. And they post a meme like, oh man, this is where I'm gonna be at. But I don't see nobody doing it. Everybody else is going and doing level 20, 25. It's like, for what? You don't even know what the physics feel like. You don't got no proprioception of your body in space to make this happen. And that's all I hope, you know, is that people like learn about themselves and keep working to level up, in this second to last, we'll release this last 7 days, this last week of August. This, for the astrology folks out there, it's what they call Virgo season. Um, it's a good time for the Beyoncés and the Kobe Bryants and the Michael Jacksons and the Barry Whites and the Paul Walkers, you know, the Lazy Bones.
For the
Uh,
Nas's and the
it's
Ludacris's.
a good, it's the Nas's and the Ludacris's and Dougie Freshes. It's a good time.
You're right.
So we celebrate life always, but like the October baby said, we can have more life, and like the Bible says, life more abundantly.
I mean, man, I appreciate you for saying all that, especially when it comes to the toxic part, because that is so easy to like forget. Your body's constantly dealing with toxicity, and it has the mechanisms and the ability to deal with it, right?
Oh, real quick, it's an anime called Sales at Work that's talking all about that.
Cells at work. I'm on it.
Sales at Work. It's a Sales at Work one, and it's a Cells at Work 2, season 2, and it's a Cells at Work Dark. That's like talking about more adult bodily functions. It's wild.
I mean, but the thing that I want to expand upon is going back to that unnecessary challenge, right? At some point, you have to acknowledge how much toxicity are you placing on yourself, because the dosage makes the poison, right? You can handle toxicity, but when the toxicity becomes poisonous, right? There's a threshold that you have to pay attention to, right? Now, for some, right, they take the poison little by little, and their body builds up a resistance to it because they understand that's what's needed for them due to the environment, right? Maybe the environment is really harsh, and so you have to take the toxicity in increments to where you build a resiliency towards it. But that isn't for everything, right? And you have to be very mindful of what that is and how far you're willing to go and why you're doing it, right? Are you doing it out of survival? Are you doing it out of safety? Are you doing it because you feel like you have to? Or is there a way out that you don't need to, right? Because yes, your body can handle toxicity, but sometimes we go, when we get too much toxicity, we'll bring it into ourselves, right? Some of us we don't ask for it. Some of us, there's no question we are a victim to it. But some of us can't even see beyond ourselves to know that we're bringing more in when we don't need to. And so, you're right. We have the ability to handle it, but you also have to have that self awareness to know, right? Are they not calling me back because of how I sound? And can I accept when someone tells me this is how I sound, right? Because at some point, you're going to have a feeling in you where it's like, is it me? And maybe it is. Maybe it is, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. It's an opportunity to learn, it's an opportunity to grow. And I think it's important because it goes back to the toxicity, right? Am I just showcasing, projecting the toxicity that I'm bringing onto myself? And am I projecting that onto others, which is keeping me from whatever the thing is that I need, right? You got to ask yourself that, because it's so essential to have that self-awareness and to have that acknowledgement of self. Because you're right, you will see people say this is the challenge, and it's easy to take in, but they won't go through with the process, right? They're going to go for the big one. They're not going to go for the little one. They're not going to go for the one that's manageable, right? What's your level 2? People think they're on level 5, and then once they get out there, they find out, oh, why is it not working for me? Because you didn't take the time to work it out beforehand. So work it out, whatever that is. Work it out, right? Because yeah, it's on a molecular level, on a cellular level, it's on every level. There's work that needs to be done, and I think you captured it beautifully by talking about toxicity, because it is there. It's always there. It's just how much of it are you taking? How much of it is around you? And do you need to get away from it? Right? That's all I mean, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes you gotta create some space, you gotta create some distance, right? I love you, but I can't be here. I can't watch this. I can't deal with this. In order for me to deal with it, I need to be able to rejuvenate myself. I need to be able to heal me so I can be here to even support your healing. Space, time, distance, whatever that case is. But man, you said it. You definitely said it. I'm like, man, people be, ooh, my goodness, they forget, right? They forget. It's easy to forget. They think they all purify. We all need a purification. We do, but we all ain't as pure as we hope to be.
Right. Now, question, right? If I get inoculated and I die, am I undead? Or if I get the virus and I die, am I undead? Or am I just dead? Either way, we gonna find out.
We're gonna find out. Risking some biscuits.
We gonna find out. But it's interesting because when we learn those thresholds, right? It's still on us to say, this is this is a lot, right? Gotta acknowledge, right, that this is a lot. And what am I gonna do to manage this, right? Do I compartmentalize, right? Do I shut it out, right? So the thing of like I think about when I think about Sakura and the character in Naruto, I feel like these characters are different stages of grief, right? And they're all valid responses, right, to grief. And some people, right, start to lose or diminish the way that they interact with people to become like selfish beings, not self-righteous, but selfish and sometimes self uh defecating, to where they're like, right, I am I am not capable, but you are, so let me use you for my, right, selfish, right, coping. And I see that happening, right, in the world outside of anime. And I'm like, oh, that's a real person. It's people outside acting just like that right now. With all the death going on, right? It's somebody who lost their grandma, talking to their mama, talking to their cousin, like, I'm behind you. I got your back. Let's do this together. And then watching you struggle, watching their mom struggle, watching their cousin struggle after a few months of processing their grief, still selfish, not really processing their own grief. It's a real person out there like, you know what? You ain't gotta work so hard. You ain't gotta do it. It's like, what? I thought you was behind me. I thought you had my back. How you gonna come at me like now it's cool? I ain't gotta work so hard after I've killed myself for the last 4 months to put us in a better position after I didn't like trudged through my grief to get to this point where I see a direction for myself in my life. You go say it's cool. You ain't gotta work so hard. Just because you ain't been processing your grief, because you ain't been working at it like I've been working at it, or like the work you do, like you said, right? For some people, right, my A effort, right, is right is one thing, right, and they A effort is another thing. They 100% looks like one thing, right, and my 100% looks different, right? As I'm trying to become, right, the vision that I see for myself, right, that's still yet unclear to me as I move closer to it, right, it becomes more out of reach in some ways. What theirs is right here. I got that. That's exactly who I'm gonna be right here, 2 inches in front of me, right? That's like it's, and because everybody's experience is different and their thresholds is different, right? Even more the reason why to understand them, I have to work to understand myself, right? Because the unrealistic expectation that they be setting on me, right, is past my 110%. What they what they want me to be for them in this space is past my limit. So I got to be in a space where I can acknowledge that so I can even communicate it, right? Say that's too far. That's tough for me. And again, right, like you said, there's nothing wrong with that. right? It's nothing wrong with like being overwhelmed and saying, I got to go back to being whelmed for a bit because that's what I need to get to tomorrow. That's what I need to do to see my next birthday. I got to spend more days being whelmed than just overwhelmed because being overwhelmed on a daily didn't yield, the growth that I want to see in my life, right? Or the peace that I want to see in my life.
Yeah. I mean, if you really want to see it, sometimes you gotta date by old. But you know,
And you
for
know,
those it's believe it. But for me, it's date by old. I never tripped. I mean, yeah, Majora's Mask theories through everything, death and the stages of it. It's all around us. It's
oh
just
yeah,
yeah. I think yeah. It's just it's some food for thought for those that are ready to eat. Um,
yeah.
you know, I can't. Yeah, this was one to remember. Episode 63, the crate challenge. Right, digging through the crates because you can easily be found in the crates,
Mm,
digging through the crates.
yes.
So for me, that means I'm gonna find me some samples. For y'all, that means you gonna get a sample of this ground. Just understand your limits. Understand where it is you're trying to do. Right. Not every challenge is needed, and know where you trying to go with it. And I think that for me right now, it's definitely it's time to switch it up. I've been in the creative process, and now learning that I've worked that muscle out. There's other muscles I need to work out. My goodness. Got to work on them glutes.
That's what I call my glutes. My goodness. Oh my goodness. Say, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. That's what that is right there.
I mean, yeah, it's one of those things. Yeah, you just can't ignore your whole self, right? You gotta acknowledge and
But you
embrace your
could.
whole self. You could,
But
you
you
right, you
but
could, you
but you
could, and many
could.
do.
That's
On the
Cletus
lyrical
Cassidy.
one, you could.
Mm. We're gonna talk some more next week.
Episode Nintendo 64 of the Lyrical Ones podcast. Shout out to FAO Schwartz and the bus.
I appreciate you.
As we do
Yeah.
at this time, often as we do at this time. What did you get ready to say?
Oh no, I just want to say thanks to everyone listening now, listening in the future, and all those watching.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Yes. Gratitude, appreciation, thank you. As we Oh, that's right, because I was tripping.
One, 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 Run, run,